here you are. You are enjoying your beautiful EKKO. It's getting cold and chilly out here. You think about taking that first shower, maybe warming up some soup on that new stove, and want to get some heat going. So again, first thing you're going to do is come on out here. You're going to go ahead and initiate one of the propane tanks. It doesn't matter which one you choose. For this purpose, we'll just choose the left one. Go ahead and turn it on. You'll notice that that went from red to green. We're going to close the compartment. Again, key thing to keep in mind is this arrow, this indicator, needs to be facing the tank that you're using. It can face this tank if you're using this tank, and this tank if you're using this tank. Go ahead and shut your compartment door. Again, we talked about the TRUMA AQUAGO system that's located here. We're going to get into more technical aspects later, but we just want to get up and then start enjoying things. We've got our power switch here, on, off. It does not matter which way you rock it. I'm going to push mine to the up position. You'll notice right now there is no green light. Let's go and find out why. Well, as we were talking about earlier, we have some control switches here. We notice that the coach power is off. How do we know? We've got nothing happening here. So turn that on, and it starts to initiate our thermostat. If you look up there, that's not only our thermostat, but it's our control or the brain for the system. Once that's initiated, we'll go on back outside. And I'm pretty sure at this point, we now have a green light. So typically what I like to do, I'm gonna just turn that off for a moment, is before I exit the coach, and typically you would have done this, I just like to make sure that my power is on in here. That's just how I start things. I know everything's up and running. I then come on out, I engage my propane tanks, and then I move over to this system. I put it in the on position. I make sure that I have a green light. We know that we have power to the unit because there are error codes that will get triggered, and I'm gonna give you a little cheat sheet on that and explain that here in a moment. So we go back on in here and we walk on up to our control panel. Now, when we first show up at our control panel, you're gonna see that there's a clock that was activated. When I turn on the coach power, or kill the coach power, and then turn it back on, I should say coach batteries, sorry, this is gonna always reset. Unless I'm setting on and off times and programming it for when I want it to come on and off, I don't really focus too much on this. But you notice you have a dial here. Nothing happens if I just spin it around in a circle. You also have a back arrow here so that you can kind of go back out of a sequence. To get a function going, we will push in. We notice that we got our little motor home, and if we push on that, it says that right now our heating system, this is to warm the coach motor home with a thermostat, says it's off. If I rotate it to the right, and let's say I pick a desired temperature of 75 degrees, once I push that back in, it will lock that in. It'll now show me that there's a flame. Now that flame right there is basically telling me the system's up and it's ready to ignite. If I rotate my dial to the right, you'll hear the vent, if you come down here and you listen real quiet, has just kicked on. It's starting up the system. Initially, you're going to feel some cool air. It's cycling what's in there, it's getting warmed up, it's gonna happen. So now let's say I wanna turn my hot water on. I'm gonna push the button back in, get to where I've got a full display here. I'm gonna rotate it slightly to the right. I now have flashing water with thermostat. I'll push the button in. Right now it says that the hot water tank, or I should say, is off. I set mine to comfort. You just turn it to right. There's an eco mode, off, eco mode, keep going right, comfort. If you go back to the left, let's call it counterclockwise, it just rotates the opposite. So I stick with comfort. After I select it, I push the button back in. You can set the temperature. Some of you, maybe you only want your water 99 degrees, 100 degrees. I keep mine at 120. I'll push the button back in because that's what I desire. This little piece that you see right there, that's telling you that you're utilizing LP gas as what's running or igniting your system. You pretty much don't have to worry too much about that. If there's an error code or something that pops up, it's probably going to pop up and not let anything happen because the system's not recognizing. Now, there's a fan speed. If I rotate the button over here to where the fan is blinking, and I push the button back in. You can go with auto, night mode. There's also a boost mode. But let's say I want to get back out of that mode. Remember our back button here? So I back out. I'm back at the main switch. I rotate it one more time to the right. You now see that I've got a little blinking light there. This is where I can set for when I want it to start and stop, kind of like at home. Maybe I want to kick on at 6 a.m. and turn off at 9 a.m. or 9 a.m. I'm going to get out of that mode, use my back button. If I rotate it to the right again, we now can set the clock. We can say, okay, it's 5:03, and I push the button in, and I'll switch to maybe 5:04, etc., AM, PM. Right here, if you look at the little wrench, again, if I rotate to the right, the wrench is going to blink. These have to do with resetting the system. I'm going to give you a cheat sheet on that, but I'm just going to move the dial to the right. That's our Aqua 60. We've got some temp controls, brightness for the screen, some delays, index language, and a full reset. If you ever have any problems with your system and you rotate all the way through to reset, you'll just push the button in, program reset. It'll initiate. It's going to shut the system down. It's going to clear any codes, and it's going to allow you to start over to where we started from. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some initial error codes. I'm going to let this reset, and we'll be right back with you, because this is where people run into some problems. They get a little bit, upset with things. They're unfamiliar, and they start saying this camping trip is just not how it should have been. We're freezing, and we don't get that warm shower. So stick with me here. I'm going to make it fail. So welcome back. I've intentionally triggered some error code. So you just walked in, nothing's functioning, and it says W255W. So what I did is I printed out some cheat sheets, if you will. These come direct from the manufacturer, and I'll share all this information with you online and where you can locate it. But let's say you didn't know what these codes meant because you haven't owned one of these for several months and gone through all of the fun stuff. If you went online and or printed out a sheet, or within your Winnebago welcome pack where all your goodies are located, this is also within the information pack. It says that W255H means that the heater has no 12-volt power. It also means that there's no connection between the heater and the control valve. Now that's obviously because we have killed the power, and I'm trying to get an error code for demonstration. It says here that the solution would be to make sure that we have 12-volt DC power supply. Well, if you notice, we definitely know we've got power, but why don't we have power? Did we turn on the system outside, and did we engage the propane tanks? Well, we'll have to go check that out and see. We also know that there's that we need to connect the heater and the control valve. So it's pretty straightforward. What you'll notice too is in the information packets, it's pretty easy. W is warning. The number indicates the code that you would want to reference, like 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., etc. The last number happens to either mean that it's the VARIOHEAT system, what's warming the interior of the coach, or your EKKO, I should say, or it has to do with the water system. In this case, it's telling me that it's not getting any power so that we can have some hot water. So when I see that code, I don't panic. We go outside. So we're going to take you really quickly outside. Stick with us. We've got our cheat sheet. We've got an error code. We know that we have coach power. We got a little green light on here, coach battery power. We have items that are illuminated within our coach, our EKKO. I keep calling it our coach, but our EKKO. We come out here and, oh my goodness, look at that. We forgot to put the power on, of course. Let's see if we get a green light. Oh yeah, green light time. Now let's go back in and see if anything happens. I got a feeling we're gonna get another error code, but you'll see why in a sec. So, we're back inside. Error code's gone. We've defaulted back to some home settings here. Let's try to get some heat going here. I'm gonna go ahead, well, let's back up here. So we come to the control panel, and right now I got a flashing EKKO with a little thermostat. If I push the center button in, it tells me it's off. It's nice and chilly here, so I'm gonna crank this thing up to at least 80. I can go as far as 86. We're gonna just go with 80. Set it, let it do its thing. I'm gonna move the dial over for some hot water because I want to wash my hands. I want to prep for a shower, brush my teeth, etc. I push the button in. Well, it says it's off. I'm gonna go with comfort mode. Again, I could pick eco just by rotating the dial. Now, there we go. We're set at 120 degrees. Again, by turning the dial clockwise, counterclockwise, etc. You can set it. Just always remember to reset the button. I'm going to check my fan. I'm going to rotate clockwise till the fan flashes. Push my button in again. I'm going to leave it on auto, but some of you, because we set it at 86, we could hit boost, we can hit night mode, and we can hit auto. Just for kicks, let's hit boost. Let's see if the system fires up. I have strong reason to believe that we're going to get an error code, and you'll see why in just a moment. Stick with us. Oh, well, look at this, folks. We have error codes again. What did we do wrong? Oh my gosh, do we have a defective echo, etc.? Of course, I'm just being a little dramatic for fun. So we have error code 2H. Now we know from our cheat sheet that E is for error, 2 is the code, and H means that one of these appliances, whether it's the VARIOHEAT or the AQUAGO, is not functioning. So let's go over here, troubleshooting chart, and it says error at over temperature switches. The exhaust over temperature switch, EOS burner over temperature switch span is unplugged. Well, there was also an error code that came up with E16, and we're going to make that happen again. Bear with me. Oh, something critical. You see this little guy here, the triangle? That right there is a warning. Whenever you see that, it's trying to tell you that something in the system is out of whack. So what we can do is we can push our center button. We should have done that just to demonstrate this in the very beginning. Let me hit the back arrow. I'm going to rotate till I get to the error code when it's flashing. I shouldn't say error code, I'm sorry. The warning symbol. I'm going to push the button in. So far we have an E2 code. But earlier I did see it flash an E16. It cleared itself, but let's find out what an E16 is. E16 means that the gas cylinder is empty. Oh, look at that. E2, no flame detected. Gas cylinder quick connect. So let's go make sure we put on our propane. Again, remember, I'm intentionally failing the system because these are the things that you're going to run into should you forget something or you just have a small issue. So I'm going to come back out here. I'm going to open this up. We're red. It means that we have no propane flowing. Look at that. We forgot to turn on our tank. So we'll keep the arrow facing the tank that we want. This here should turn green. It turned green. Arrow's facing the tank we want. Tank is on. Shut the compartment. And just to make sure we don't have to come back out in this freezing weather again, we do have power. Things are looking good there. Let's see if we can clear these codes and get all cozy. So, what do you know? Codes are gone. We've cleared the error code, which is 2 and 16. And how we cleared that is making sure that our propane dial is turned the correct direction. Our tank is on or open. Our tanks are full. Now, I've already pre-filled these tanks, so I know they're full. So I'm coming back in. I want to go ahead and get that heat started again. I'm going to push the center button in. Select my desired temperature, push the button in again. I'm gonna let it do its thing. I'm gonna get my hot water up and running by rotating this dial till the water function flashes. Push it in. Let's say I don't want it, I'd leave it off. If I do want it, ecosystem, or actually economical if you will, but eco mode. Comfort, I'm gonna leave it at comfort. I like mine set at 120 degrees, so I'm gonna lock that in by pushing the button. I'm going to rotate over to my fan. I can leave it on auto, night, or boost. Because it's really cold right now and I want to get things fired up, I'm going to lock it in at boost. You can also cycle that back down. I'm not going to worry about setting times. There's no more warning symbols to clear. I'm going to just back arrow out. I'm going to let it do its thing. And in just a couple seconds here we go. Bring that on down. Put your hand there. Tell me if you feel warmth, Michelle. Yeah, so that thing's gonna fire up and really start cooking and doing the code. So again, don't get alarmed by any error codes. They're usually pretty straightforward and simple. One or two things has happened. You didn't turn the system on outside. You forgot to give the coaches 12-volt power. Your tanks are empty or they're not engaged, and you have to do a factory reset. Now remember the factory reset, I'm just gonna brief you real quick. Button in, clockwise, 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 clockwise. Wrench because we want to work on it. Button in. We're going to turn the dial to the right, clockwise, clockwise. We're not going to change languages or anything right now. You again can go on all of that stuff, figure it out yourself. It's all here. We just want to get you warm and up and running. I'm going to reset the system. We're going to go ahead and push it again. It's going to initiate. It's going to clear everything I've asked it to do. The system will shut down. You'll see here in a moment. And our heater just turned off. And this will flash. And we're back to square one. So again, you still have some error codes. You can clear them. I'm going to fire us back up because I know Michelle's getting cold. I'm going to get her up to 86. Push the button in. I'm going to get some hot water going. Push the button in. I'm going to select comfort mode. I like mine at 120. I'm going to push the button in, lock it in. I'm going to rotate over to my fan clockwise till it flashes. Auto's fine, but I'm going to boost us up here and get us nice and warm. And then I'll just use the back arrow and clear back out of the system. So pretty straightforward. I hope that helps you. You can always send us a message on Instagram. You can do our YouTube channel any way that you want to get a hold of us. We have Twitter. I'll do my best to try to help you. I'll give you resources. I know it can be frustrating, but I also know that once you got the basics down, anything that happens, you're going to have it up and running in minutes. You're going to be happy and enjoying your time. So we're going to be right back with you, and we're going to start talking about some of the water functions. So welcome back, everyone, and thanks for sticking with us. So as we just left off, we got our system up and running. We've cleared the error codes. We understand them. We're no longer having any anxiety around this stuff. We're enjoying the nice warm water in here. We probably have taken a shower. We got our heat on. It's nice and cozy. It's got all of our home comforts, if you will. However, we decided to step into the restroom. We said we're going to wash our hands, use the shower, etc. And we turn our water on. And let's say that we go to start the sink. And we're washing our hands. Everything's good. By the way, this is nice warm water. Can you hear that noise? That is the gulper pump. Now, right now, the reason that the gulper pump shut down is we are parked at a decline, or if we were level, our gulper pump is only going to make as much noise as required for it to pump water to our holding tanks. Remember, stored up above here are the holding tanks that hold our fresh water and our gray water. Our gray water meaning the water that's coming from the sink, the shower, kitchen sink, okay? In order for that to get into the tank that's elevated above and it's not gravity fed, it needs to be pumped up. So what Winnebago did on the 2022 models is they installed what's called, we'll refer to it as the gulper pump. In 2023, they relocated it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but it's located underneath the seat here. There was a recall on these. If you have a Coach right now, an EKKO, you've probably already gone through the recall. They wouldn't be able to release it to you without it. So let's pretend that for some reason our little cockapoo wants to join us. We'll just put her in her bed. That the pump wasn't shutting off or it wasn't working and you needed to try to figure out why or what's going on here. Well, it is located on the 2022 models underneath the seat. In order to access it, you just give a little pop here to the underside of the sink, or sorry, the seat. It releases. Go ahead and flip it over, set it out of your way, and I'm going to bring a little light into the subject. So you'll notice the gulper pump is housed right here. It is the yellow unit. I think that Michelle can probably, there you go. You're looking right at it. You'll also notice, I'm going to back the camera up just a bit here, that there's an inline fuse. That inline fuse is a 10 amp fuse. The likelihood of you blowing that fuse or having a problem with it is probably slim to none, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to carry a spare one. I can talk more about how to release that fuse later, and actually we should probably talk about how to reset this. If you notice, there's two pins here, and those two pins engage into these two plastic holders, these eyes right here. And if you notice, there's a little hook mechanism, and that locks us in right here. And you can see I've had the seat on and off several times. I can explain why later, but you basically put it in at an angle so that you've set into the hooks, and you just pop it down and it's all set, nice and tight. So there's where your gulper pump is located. If we were parked uphill, where the tail of the vehicle, if you will, the rear end of it is facing down, that pump's not going to want to shut off. I can almost guarantee it. Our driveway's set like this. You may have to do one or two things. You'd come back over here and you'll kill the power to the coach with off. I'm not going to do that because we're nice and warm and cozy in here right now. Or you could go inside here and you can open up the holder where you saw the 10 amp fuse and disconnect the fuse. Just make sure that when you do that, you're careful with the hot side because there's still power going to it and you don't want to brush against any metal and get it arced and maybe cause some electrical issues. So that's, now 2023, what they did is they took the inverter that's located in the outside driver's side compartment. I showed you that earlier, next to where the lithium batteries are located. And they put it inside the coach. Then they took the gulper pump and they located it into that compartment. So again, if you're looking for it, it's going to be in one or two places depending on the year of your vehicle. We're talking 2022s now, but if you got a 2023, this still applies. So now that we understand what the gulper pump does, where the tanks are located, in the event that we have to check for power or a fuse location, we're going to move on here in just a few moments and talk about where our water pump is located. So just stick with us and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We are now at the rear of the coach, and we're now going to be talking about where's the water pump located. In the event that you need to check any of the wiring, you need to check the screen filter, you just need to find out what's going on with it, or maybe you're just curious. So this is the driver's side of the vehicle. This is one of our coat closets, if you will. And most EKKOs do not come equipped with Elf and Santa gear, but we again opted for every option possible. So I'm going to have Michelle swing the camera in here and give you a little look. You notice that there's a little trap door, a compartment door here. If I lift that up, you'll see that there's our water pump right there. You'll notice that there are some heating tubes and ducts, and it might be a good idea just to make sure some of those are not pinched. I've heard rumors and stories that some are pinched. You also see that way back in the back there are some plumbing lines, etc., and some wiring. What I'm going to do is draw your attention to the pump itself, which is right here, and then there's a little screen filter down there, and I apologize that it's kind of hard to get the camera in there, but I think you'll get the gist of that. That screen filter should more than likely not get too plugged or dirty, but it is a serviceable item. And then you're going to notice right here we've got some wires, some connectors, etc. So we're not going to labor too much on that, but just in case you had to address the water pump, do some troubleshooting, you know now where it's located. And again, that just kind of covers some basics. So the whole idea here today was to go ahead and give you a quick walkthrough of how to get you up and running, deal with some error codes, get your weekend or your weekday or your first trip started without kind of going into anxiety or panicking. Because again, a lot of you folks are getting receipt of these through a driver. You're not actually showing up at the dealership. Some of you, they're sight unseen. Ours was sight unseen when we purchased it. We just showed up and hoped for the best. We've learned a lot along the ways. We did get about an hour and a half of instruction, but that kind of went in one ear, out the other. We checked our videos, and a lot of it was go as you learn or learn as you go. So stick with us. We got some more stuff to share. Be right back. All right, so we're about wrapped up here. Again, it's winter time, unless you're in certain parts of the country where you got some amazing weather and you want to go ahead and get this all closed up for the evening. Good thing to know is the difference between your thermal blanket, which is right here, and what I'm going to call your privacy blanket or screen. You'll notice they definitely have a weight factor difference. One is more like an insulated value. So we'll just say that we're going to start here, and we just want a little bit of a privacy screen. It's not too cold out. We also were going to use the function of spinning our chairs around, which we'll demonstrate later. I have my opinion on those things right there, but again, they do serve their purpose. So as you know, as I staying with what we're talking about here, as we open this up, we have Velcro on one end and no Velcro on the other end other than small tabs. So you'll notice when you first get ready to put this at the front of the cab, or I should say your EKKO, and sorry, I did not have the key on for power, but you have little Velcro tabs right here. And across the front here are 4. And if you look behind me right over here, you're going to also notice that there are another set on each side. Let's turn on some light here. So what I like to do, because these things, they're not my favorite. I mean, they do work and serve their purpose, but I like to start at the corner here, get that one going. And then as I'm working my way around, you'll notice that the pillar and this have a very similar shape where the stitching is, and I hope that you can see that. I'll kind of guide that to that corner, and then I'll go ahead and work these across. And as you begin to work them across, and I apologize, I'm probably blocking the camera here. As you work this across, you're gonna notice that you got a little short here. I'll tell you why that happens. You see the slack here? It always creates a problem. So what you could do is start at your 2 ends. As I say, I always like to start at the ends. Then make it tight as you roll across right here. And then eventually, by the time you get over here, you're well connected. And then just for kicks, I'll drop the sunshade / visors. So just to kind of recap, and you're gonna run into this. Again, it is not my favorite fit. We have other shades now, but if this is what you're working with, it just arrived. It does suit its purpose. I would start at the far corners, as I said, and work my way around. I'll let you be the judge of this yourself. I just think it was a poor design. The other thing that I will make note of real quick, these just screw in. They're screws going into plastic, and they come out pretty easy. So do not be surprised if for any reason one of those comes out. Just thread it back in. Again, it's not my favorite, but it serves its purpose. Now, really quickly, the thermal blanket. I love this. This will retain heat back here and keep you nice and cozy, especially at night. Now, you have some snap tabs located, as you see, across here, and there's a few that run down the bottom. I'm going to lower the table. This is not a requirement to install this, but just so you can see where all the snaps are. What you'll notice here, as you hold this up, and Michelle scoot back just a little bit, is there's no snaps here, but it's about exactly the same size as the sound bar. Again, if you don't have an entertainment center, you line that up in the middle. Start on the left or right side, connect your first 2 snaps, work your way around. As you see here, 2 more snaps. Swing it around, lock it in. There is no right or wrong to the side that you start on. This was probably the best thing that Winnebago designed in respect to thermal insulation or blanket separating from the front of the cab. I tend to take this and just tuck it around here. Some folks will tuck it underneath their sound bar. Again, there's no right or wrong to that. The other thing that you'll notice, if you do tuck it underneath here and you have to be a person that utilizes your entertainment system, you're going to still get the soundbar function. It does come with a zipper. It gives you access to the front of the cab. And there you go. The thing that you'll notice though, it doesn't touch the ground. Right now, I can feel a pretty heavy draft. Let's just call it the thermal difference here. At night, we tend to take just a little blanket, we roll it up, we lay it across here, and it's a game changer. The other thing that we'll talk about is when you wake up in the morning and you've been running the heat, you've had a good night's sleep. By the way, those beds are insanely comfortable. You'll find that out. You're on your own. The windows will be full of condensation. A lot of folks complain about that. Yes, obviously, you can clean them. I'm going to just move this aside so we can keep moving. You can clean them, wipe them down, absorb the water, etc. The other thing that you can do is we all have a max air fan. These max air fans have multiple settings. There's low, medium, high, there's variable speeds, there's temperatures. If you want to leave it just slightly open at a low speed, it's going to draw that moisture, that air out. You're going to have less chance of there being condensation on any of your windows. But again, that's totally up to you. I don't know that I would invite you to crack any of the windows. If you're comfortable with that and you feel safe at the location you're at and that doesn't bother you, go for it. If you want to crack the windows up by your bed, go for it. But one of the best ways is to crack this. It's the same with the shower. You're taking a shower, there's condensation. You're going to see it pulling across the ceiling in various locations. You can, of course, wipe that down, or You can open the bathroom window in the shower, or simply just turn the fan on low, and the rest is history. So I hope this was helpful. Again, these are just the basics so that you can get out and enjoy yourself, troubleshoot a few error codes, get the tankless water running, get some heat and coach, get yourself some soup going, etc. Enjoy your travels, and thanks for joining us. Please subscribe. Have a great day.